yeah, this whole unit.
The unit, like
the big unit, you know? I don't know. I was at the track one day when I first got it, and I was talking about it to Travis Perry, my mechanic at the Monster Energy Cowie team. And I don't know, somehow the unit came up and it just stuck. We were joking around. I hashtagged it one time, and then it just kind of took off. So this is the big unit.
The big unit. So the broken hand/fingers at Monster Cup kind of ruined the unit's debut.
More so mine. I was pissed. You know, this was. I've always wanted a 500. I originally got this bike just for a fun project for me to kind of tinker with and have over the next year or so to, you know, gather parts and just have to ride and have fun on. But then the straight rhythm thing came up, and a lot of people, you know, wanted to back me for it, and so it kind of became more of a rush job. And so while preparing for Monster Cup, I was also building this thing up at the house as my home project. So basically, I probably had too much time on my hands because I finally landed the factory ride, and somebody else was working on the bikes and doing all the managing. So yeah, so I just started piecing it together. Did a few things. Did the 450 front end. A lot of guys are doing. Luckily, I had some extra clamps laying around from my 450 last year. Had a little bit special offset for me, which will help this thing turn a little bit better. So I pieced it on there. You have to put a little sleeve in the stem, get it all to fit up there good. Different top bearing, makes it work. And then I talked to my boys at Showa about doing some forks for me. So I scored some Supercross spec forks for this thing. Really, this thing, I got really lucky. A lot of people wanted to be involved. I got really fortunate in all the people that, you know, had a hand in it. I was able to get a billet two-piece clutch cover from a guy in Australia. My buddy Chaz Cadlick at Trigger Racing that helps me out for Supercross went ahead and bought that for me. I thought it was a little bit over the top, but it turned out sick. I talked to my friends at Hinson. They don't normally do it, but I got them to acadize it for me too. I was expecting a black, but it came out this kind of like burnt oil brownish black color, and I thought that was even cooler because it looks even more like the 90s Moto magnesium covers. So yeah, altogether this bike's just sick. I did the 450 rear end on it where I put it's the 500 swing arm, but it's a 450 rear wheel, 450 axle. It's 25 millimeters, so I had to bore out the axle slots for the axle to sit in, put the 450 axle blocks on there, put the axle in. Yeah, this thing was just a lot of fun, a little bit of machining, a lot of tinkering.
Where'd that tank come from?
Yeah, so Doc Wobb over in the UK, he does a lot of importing for all kinds of cool parts on this. This thing actually has a full tie kit from Doc as well. Doc brings in super light titanium, and they make a full tie kit for these KX500s. And then Doc, you know, gets this tank made. It's an actual reproduction of the Wardy tank that he ran back in the day. It's a little bit smaller. It's a repro of the '89 KX250 that's highly sought after. This is like the aluminum factory version of it that Wardy ran. They would just powder coat it green and run it. I preferred the bare look. I think it looked even better. So I just left it raw, you know.
Yeah, that tank, it looks like it wouldn't be too forgiving on the other unit.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've seen the stock one, it sits up higher than the handlebars. So this one's a little bit more forgiving.
So have you actually ridden a 500 before you bought this?
I rode a Honda AF one when I was younger. I was 14 in this tiny arena cross track in Kentucky. It was in like this little tent that we would race in the arenas or in the winters. And a guy had one in an aluminum frame, and it rattled my teeth out because it was an aluminum frame, and it's a 500. The grips felt like soda cans. They were just huge. So that wasn't a pleasant experience, but I always wanted a 500, and I wanted one in the steel frame, the OG one. So yeah, I've been looking over some time, and I saw this one, and the wife was on board. She has something in mind to use this for as well. So when she gave me the green light to buy it, I just went ahead and bought it.
Where did you find it? Like, was it a garage find or was it all race buys?
Craigslist in Denver. Yeah, there's I actually talked to Chaz at Trigger Racing as well. I was telling him I was interested in buying one. Didn't know if I wanted one that was already torn apart, kind of started as a project because I had to overhaul it anyway. And he looked in Craigslist. I couldn't find what I wanted, and he did his little magic on Craigslist. And like 2 hours later, he found like 10 of them that were in good shape. And this one came from a guy in Denver that does like all original builds. He has a couple you know, KX250s and Suzuki 125s, all kinds of stuff from back in the day. And he had this one, and it was in great shape. I got it like $2,900, and it was ready to rip. I got it. Clearly he's in Denver, so he has you know, high altitude jetting in it. So I got it and put sea level jetting in it. Went out the next day and ripped it at Paula and just had the time of my life. Yeah.
So you're telling me earlier that compared to 450, in some ways it actually feels slow?
Yeah, so like the 500, you know, everybody, a lot of hype around it. Fastest bike ever made, unrideable, this and that. But, you know, we ride 450s now that are pretty insane. So for me on the 500 right away, I didn't think it was insanely fast. It wasn't like it was faster than the 450s we ride, but it had the 450 power in this tiny window. So it was like a typical two-stroke, no power. Then it gets on the pipe, and this thing would take off like a rocket ship. So you kind of don't know what you're getting with it. It's a little bit more unpredictable. I talked to Tom Morgan. He did the engine on it. I talked to him about making it a little bit more predictable, whether it's slow the whole time, you know, and more predictable there, or just faster than hell the whole time. He did his magic with some of the power valve linkages and stuff like that, made it a little bit more predictable, did some carb stuff, so it should be a little bit better.
Nice. Well, what's the plan for when you get better?
Ride the hell out of it. Yeah, everybody. I mean, dude, it's beautiful, and like, I built it to ride it. You know, I just can't wait to, you know, want to heal up. I want to take this. It's got Supercross suspension on it now, so I plan on doing a little video on Supercross with it first, just because it's already dialed in for that. And then swapping everything over to moto stuff and just have fun in the hills and riding the moto tracks during the winter here in California, and just letting her eat a little bit.
Cool. Thanks, Wade. Bike looks good.
Right on.
This finger just... Oh, second kick! Second kick!